Good morning and welcome to Top of the Morning. This week we will begin a series of shows covering the STEM Consortium. STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. The consortium, the bringing together of all the players across the state of Oklahoma and across the nation who impact STEM education in Lawton, Fort Sill. We're going to discuss how we work together to maximize STEM education and how we leverage the FISTA for high-tech jobs and more STEM funding. We hope you will enjoy the show. There's a lot going on with education in Lawton, Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Lawton Public Schools Superintendent Kevin Hime is on a mission to make education in our community about getting students ready for a self-actualizing, productive life. Please join us today on Top of the Morning, TOTM, as we visit with Superintendent Hime and he shares his vision for creating innovation in our school system. Learn about the plan for K-12 STEM education, special programs designed for a child's unique talents, the New Life Ready Center, and ways to begin high school and college early. Superintendent Hime is a big advocate of the Southwest Oklahoma STEM Consortium. Good morning and welcome to Top of the Morning. We appreciate you joining us. Today we got a really special show. We have Kevin Hime, the school board superintendent for Lawton Public Schools. And to begin with, Kevin, would you help our viewers by explaining to them what your job is and what your responsibilities are?
Well, as I'm the superintendent of Lawton Public Schools, and in a sense, the superintendent oversees the day-to-day operations. The board is there to approve expenditures, set policy, and hire a superintendent. So basically, I am the board's employee to carry out their will. Mm-hmm. And so that is my job, is to carry out the will of the board and run this school on a day-to-day basis.
Well, we appreciate that. Tell us a little about yourself. How did you get to be in Lawton, Fort Sill?
I've been in education for 35 years. I was a superintendent at Clinton Public Schools. I've also been a superintendent of even a smaller school. I'm in my 50s. I felt like I had I had 5 to 10 more years left in education. I felt like I had been a superintendent at various size schools and been successful, and I'd never been in a multi-high school district. The Lawton Public Schools came open, and I decided I would apply for the job. I did some research on Lawton Public Schools that really fit some of the things I like and some of my goals and some of the challenges I like to embark on. And I applied. I met with the board. We went through a 2-interview process, and they chose me to be their superintendent, and here we are.
Well, we're delighted to have you. You've got a great reputation across the community, and you've brought a lot of energy, and we're certainly proud of that. But I have to ask you, when you first got here, what was your first impression of the state of education in Lawton, Fort Sill area?
I thought education, probably when you apply for a job and you've gone through turnover, sometimes the reputation outside is not as good as the reputation what you see. I was very, very excited when I got here and I started meeting some of the district leaders and teachers and different people who are in the education, and see that we have a lot of great people working for Lawton Public Schools, and it made it where I wasn't as worried about the recruitment of people as I was taking the people Lawton already had hired and trying to get them into positions where they could be their skills and their strengths could be most useful to make us a better school system.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure to sit down with you before and talk about some of your ideas and goals. And you brought in a lot of, I think, very good ideas and a lot of energy that was, I think, needed and encourages people across the community. But if you would please just share your goals for Lawton Public Schools.
Well, and one of the first goals you always have when you deal with a school is 100% graduation. We want to create a system where every student graduates, because we know in 2021 a student who does not get a high school diploma, that's a struggle for them later on in life. So in creating that idea where they graduate, how do we create a valuable graduation? So we've talked, we want every student who walks across the stage to either have career tech in an industry certified type class experience. We want, or college pre-algebra, college AP classes, or something that is preparing them to go to college or military, that goal that they're going to get into the military. So, one of those three things, we want them to have that life ready or that career choice, where they know where their next step is. Obviously, a lot of students may think they're going to career tech and 2 years later go to college and go. We understand people change their minds, and just like we changed jobs in 2021, but we do want them to create where they have a background and able to take one of those three paths, and we prepare them to take one or two of those, or even three of those paths, so they're prepared for it. And then, then in a nutshell, we put it into a little short statement. We want to create opportunities, not roadblocks. We want to make sure we're knocking down the roadblocks and creating opportunities for every student, and that's kind of where it gets into some of the other things. And then, obviously, one of the other goals you always have is, we probably don't talk about it as much as we should, but you should always, to be successful in a public school or any school, you have to make your parents a full partner in the educational process. So we have to find a way to get our parents more involved and more active, make sure they know they're welcome, and that we want their input, and we welcome that. So that'd be probably the last part of it we need to talk about.
Yeah, I've heard you describe that before, and I was personally impressed that you talked about college, career tech, and the military. As a former military guy who's really plugged into the military community here, that meant a lot to me because I had not heard educators say that. I'm not saying they didn't recognize it, but you said prominently that you understood what's happening with the FISTA and what's happening with the technology, and you wanted to help address that.
Even backing up to what you said, when you and I were kids and getting out of high school, getting into military was fairly straightforward. You sign a document and you're in. Well, then as time went on, they started taking the ASVAB test, but the qualifications went up. Now the qualifications continue to rise to get in there. There's some preparation we need to do if a student thinks they want to go to the Army or the Air Force. We need to do some preparation for that student so they're prepared to meet the qualifications to get in if they want that to be their career path. Now you go back to what you're talking about with the STEM and working with them. Obviously, when you move to Lawton and you start hearing some of the things the community is trying to do, you say, well, how do we work with that? If we're going to create a system where we're trying to bring in these high technology jobs, and we're going to create a workforce or bring people in it, people a lot of times in there, you'll hear business leaders say, yeah, we want to bring all these high-paying jobs to town. Well, I challenge them that I want to create the graduates to fill those high-paying jobs. That's just kind of a different mindset, but that should be our goal, is to work with companies worth, no different than what Career Tech does sometimes. What do you need our graduates to look like to be life-ready or career-ready or job-ready to work for you and work their way up to be a job where they can be comfortable as they get later in life?
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of having a tour of your Life Ready Center, and it's very impressive. But one of the things that you were talking about there, and this is really a question.
Okay.
It's going to be a question. My takeaway was this. You're determined to let the best and brightest move at their own pace and to move up. Because your makerspace in elementary school, that seems to me to be oriented to your brightest kids, most aggressive kids. You're being able to get high school credits in middle school, and then, of course, your Life Ready Center. So the appearance to me was that while you're focused on taking care of every student, you want to make sure that those kids that are talented and aggressive have the ability to move quickly and to accomplish a lot.
My experiences probably say that, I grew up in a house where although my mother was very, very intelligent, book smart, whereas my dad really struggled in school. His report card is not something pretty to look at, but my dad, when it comes to fixing things, taking things apart, and doing things, is probably the smartest person I know. My mother, as far as reading a book, and she's probably read more books than anybody in America, because that's just who she, type. So they have different level. The gifted and the talented, sometimes we see it as a person who does best on a math test or an English test, versus who's gifted. So basically the idea with the makerspace is to create an atmosphere for all kids to come in and have some engineering, pre-engineering, and work together in some cases and develop that entrepreneurship and creativity. We've tied in with the makerspaces at all of our elementaries is we've moved our GT classes back on site. When I got here, GT was predominantly served for 5th graders off-site where they bust together once and they got to do GT. So now we got all those GT sites, and they use the makerspaces for GT, although gifted and talented when we say GT. It's not limited to the makerspace. And then the idea when we say, the moving the college classes down, we also put the TAP classes in our middle school for students, again, that are more hands-on. They need a shop area, and they want to be creative and do
Talk about TAP. What is TAP?
It's we call it LTAP, Lawton Technology Applications Program. And basically, it's a way, the ultimate goal of it is, and again, we're 9 weeks into some of these programs, but the ultimate goal of TAP is we create for 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th graders, we create some semester-long introductory classes to what Great Plains is doing. Because one of the struggles is, and this is not a Great Plains fault, it's just what we do, when we get ready to decide if we want to go to career tech, we take all of our sophomores out there for a day, they tour the building, they come back and somebody hands them a piece of paper, I say, are you interested in career tech? Which field do you want? Well, you just walk through, there's 22 programs out there. You got 15 minutes in each one of them, maybe 5 minutes. That's a hard time to make a choice. But if I can get where you have a chance to be introduced to 8 or 10 of them before you get to that age, you have a little bit more information for the choice. And then the part of it is also trying to embed skills in there. In 2021, the why is so important. Why has become more important to us as humans than it probably ever was. When we were kids, when we said why, it was because I said so. That's probably how we raised our kids when but now we try to give them a why. So part of the TAP program is kids that don't learn, that struggle in math, if we can get them into a woodworking or somewhere where they can apply those math skills and they can see why they need those math skills if they want to do some of these skill level jobs, we hope it ticks into where now they understand why they need it. Because we all know if it's something we want to know, we work harder to learn it. Where we struggle in education is when we're trying to get students to learn things they're not interested in learning. So we got to flip that switch and try to find a way to, I guess for lack of a better term, can I trick you into learning it? So that's kind of where that comes from.
Yeah, you make it practical and useful and even fun.
Yeah, and even the Life Ready Center, sometimes it gets labeled as for the advanced and work at your own. But the art classes are for all students, there's various students. We got FACS over there because we didn't have, which we used to call home ec when we were kids, because we didn't have it at Lawton High and Lawton Mac. We're moving all of our vocational agriculture classes over there. So it's really for all kids. The true idea of the Life Ready Center, although what you say is true, is twofold. One, we want to make sure that all the great programs that any high school at Lawton offers, because we have 3, every student at Lawton has access to. So if your address is Lawton Mac and you choose Lawton Mac and you want to be a Highlander, but Lawton High has this great aeronautics program or this great art teacher, you have the ability at some point to experience that. And then the second thing is, like sometimes finding an AP physics teacher is very difficult in 2021. Well, finding 3 of them is next to impossible, but now I just need 1. And sometimes we only have 5 or 6 kids per site that want AP physics. Now, if we all come to the Life Ready Center, I need 1 teacher, I got 15 kids instead of 3 times. So if that makes sense, it creates an economies of scale where hopefully, again, we can create the same opportunities across a district and you're not limited to the awesome programs or the programs you take based upon the high school you choose to attend.
Yeah, I certainly get what you're saying about leveraging the numbers. I was involved with the National Math and Science Initiative when it was here earlier, and I remember it was a bit of a struggle getting enough AP teachers, and particularly in some of programs like physics, and so what you're saying really makes sense to me. and you should be able to raise your AP numbers too, don't you think?
Yes, the goal is basically, and I know you'll talk to Dr. James at some point about it because he's in charge of our curriculum and he works in that side of the building. But the goal is if it's an AP class, we offer it. Mm-hmm. And if we have enough students with interest to take it, we will find someone to teach it that is qualified. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot easier to find one qualified person to teach that AP class than it is 3. And the other side of it is, again, and we haven't got there yet, but we know we have some great teachers in this district at different sites, and people who have had students graduate, and I've even talked to some, said, man, they had that there. I wish I could have taken it, and I was talking to a former graduate at Lawton yesterday, and he said, man, I like what you're doing, because when I went to MacArthur, and there was a program at Lawton High I just wished I could have taken. I could have been a part of it. There was a teacher there that I would have so much enjoyed from what I heard if I could have experienced that teacher for just once. Mm-hmm. So that's the ultimate goal, is how do we create the same opportunities for kids across the board and create as many opportunities as we can.
Like I said, I got to go through the Life Readiness Center yesterday. Mm-hmm. Really enjoyed it, enjoyed the tour, enjoyed seeing the kids there and how excited they were and the great things that they're doing. I had another impression. Again, this is going to be a question.
Okay.
And as I watched how you all were working with the kids and you were expanding your curriculum while you were focusing on making sure they could take physics, you were expanding art, and you were expanding in medical areas. And my takeaway was that you were addressing thought structures, that the people are sometimes limited and they're in an area. My takeaway was you're going to have better mathematicians and better physicists because you have better artists and you have people that are expressing themselves creatively and using all of their capability, all of their brain, changing the pathways, the way they process information, and being able to achieve more than they possibly could have without this broad brush. And was I seeing that right?
Yes, that's the ultimate goal. Again, is to create different opportunities and different pathways and make sure, whether it's, STEM, we go back and forth, we started with STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math.
Yeah.
Well, then somebody got wild, so we got to put art in there because that's part of it. So then we had STEAM. Mm-hmm. So we had science. Well, then somebody said, well, what about reading? And now we got STREAM. And as one of my colleagues always says, well, when you get that far, it's school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So STEM is STEM, but we do want to create well-rounded students. Mm-hmm. Because when you look at what we're doing today, part of the issues you have is, most anything you read about the future is 65% of the jobs our students today will have don't exist. Mm-hmm. And that's true for us. 65% of the jobs that people in our generation are doing didn't exist when we were in school. So the ideal of preparing, 50 years ago in education, we prepared people for a particular job. We need to prepare kids how to adapt, how to change with the times and be lifelong. A Life Ready Center should also help prepare students to be lifelong learners because we're all going to have to continue to learn. I mean, were you one of those guys? I always laugh. My dad was one of those guys that he was never going to have a cell phone. Mm-hmm. Just I'm not having one of those. And now that's all he has. Mm-hmm. I mean, and so we have to be lifelong learners. I mean, if somebody would have told you 30 years ago you're going to be that phone's going to be your life, we always talk about it even in education. When we were in school, how many times did your math teacher tell you have to learn this because you won't have a calculator with you all the time?
Yeah.
Now we all have a calculator with us all the time.
We have so much capability. It's amazing. In the defense industry, mm-hmm. It's always about innovation.
Yep.
It's always about creating the next thing. Mm-hmm. And that's the feel I got in the Life Readiness Center was you're preparing some kids to be innovators. And we really need that. That'll enable them to adjust to that new job mm-hmm. that they don't see coming. But I think also very importantly, it'll help them create that new job. And that's a great thing about research and development in science and technology. You know I'm going to the FISTA here.
Yes.
The Fires Innovation Science and Technology Accelerator is all about innovation. And so what do you think about that? What is the impact of the FISTA on your goals and your program?
Well, again, you kind of, when you start with our maker spaces at the elementaries, that's what it's all about, is innovation and creativity. How do we bring that out in pre-K? We watched the video of the guy riding the bicycle. How do we bring that out? How do we, when the brain's more elastic, how do we bring out that creative innovation and even entrepreneurship? The second thing we've talked about is we hope as we grow those businesses here, that they come to the table and sit down and they help drive some of the creativity. Because when you say what you said creative and innovative. That's what we want to create. But we said that for years as educators, and I've been doing this for 35 years, and I've been guilty in part of it as well. But we've never been creative and innovative in how we created our education platform for our students. So the first way, we got to lead by example. So what we talk about, what we're doing with our Life Ready Center in our TAP program and our maker spaces, everybody, what we're trying to be as educators is be creative and innovative how we offer education to our students. And so if we're creative and innovative, they'll become creative. I mean, you know that if we're doing the same things and we're rigid and the lesson we give our students today is the same lesson we gave students 30 years ago, we're not creative and innovative, therefore we're not nurturing that. So I would tell you, I would challenge to say that the students who go to the Life Ready Center, the students are part of the things that our teachers and leaders across the district, because we have things in every building that are creative and innovative that those principals and teachers are doing, that those students that are seeing our educators be creative and innovative, the chances that they're going to be creative and innovative go up exponentially. I never can say that word right, as they get older.
Yeah. I've been with you in the FISTA, and you made a commitment to the defense industry to help give them employees. And I think that's a wonderful thing, and it gets back to your 3 groups also. And I really appreciate your focus there. There's going to be a makerspace in the FISTA.
Yes.
There may even be a magnet school there if we can get the funding, that focuses on cyber and engineering. So there are going to be opportunities for you to interact with defense industry and for them to help you grow students, letting you know what they need.
Yes.
And you being able to leverage what you have with the Life Readiness Center, because you're going to have your AP Computer Science. We have a SEMA AI program that desperately needs that.
Yes.
And so we're looking forward to it.
But when the students see, because that's something we don't do, we don't show 16-year-olds what the job they're preparing, what do these jobs, what do they look like? As a athlete that wants to be a professional athlete, we can look out there and see what that job is. If you want to be a teacher, you pretty well know when you're 15, 16 what a teacher consists of being. But if you want to be a fireman or a police officer, but if you want to if that's what you want to do, work for SEMA, you have no clue what does that mean? What does it entail? What is the day-to-day operations? And just think how amazing it'll be when those people come in here, if they'll come work with us and work with our students and just give them a glimpse of who they'll be and what they'll be. Then we get people that are hungry. They want those jobs. So I think that's very important.
And as an example, our SEMA AI, Cyber Electromagnetic Activity Artificial Intelligence team, is working with Cameron to collaborate with them on a capstone project that actually does something meaningful for Fort Sill. What I see in your Life Readiness Center is an opportunity to do that in your Life Readiness Center, in your high school, in the FISTA itself, and to get a lot of exposure for the kids with the industry, and for us to be able to get some engineers out there to share, with your students, not just what they know, but what does a good education mean to your life?
Yes, and again, the bottom line is just what you said. We're going to need engineers in Lawton. If all these businesses come, we're going to need engineers. Do we want to recruit them and bring them in, or do we want to create them? Personally, I want to create them. I don't know that the business people come in care, But I know if they know we have a good pipeline of creating them, they're going to be hungry to come here because they're going to know they have a ready workforce here, and they got a flexible workforce that they can work with.
Yeah, for the defense industry and therefore for the FISTA, having that workforce is crucial. And so we really appreciate your commitment there. We didn't talk about concurrent college enrollment,
Yep.
and that's so neat. I don't want to end this interview without giving you a chance to talk
Well,
about that.
one thing we talked about was if a kid takes a class concurrently, it also transcripts onto their high school. That's what concurrent. They get enrollment in both. Therefore, as long as we can work on how we raise the money, we don't charge for the math credit they got. So why do we charge for the math credit if they took it concurrently? We incur costs both ways. It's just what those costs are. So our ultimate goal is that we provide the books, the fees, and the tuition, and all of our students take classes free concurrently, juniors and seniors. Now, we're trying to expand that to sophomores as they loosen up who can and can't take, and it may take another funding pool, but some say, well, how do you buy their books? Well, we buy everybody's textbooks. We have a library, so they don't keep the books, but we try to keep the books in the library that they can check out. Now we're getting into renting books and e-books and some of those things, so those things change.
Yeah.
But the ultimate goal is, because again, using those words as things that accelerate, every hour you take, every college class you take in high school, and every credit you get, it's just a fast track upwards your chances of graduating. So for every, students who graduate with 30, 40 hours are like 85% chance they'll graduate from college. If you can get an associate's degree, and that's my challenge, is that we have kids graduate with an associate's degree, it's like 95% chance you'll graduate from college. And so that's the goal. And that goes back to your workforce and so forth. Part of the thing is we live in such a fast-paced world that when kids graduate from school and you say, yeah, if you'll go do this for 4 years and study this and then take 2 years of this and a year internship, year 9, you can have a really good job. Well, kids just, 18-year-old kids don't look at 8 years in the future as like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to make any money the next. They want to get out and develop a life today. And so we got to prepare them for that and try to fast track that and make sure what we're offering has value for the rest of their life.
Yeah, I think that's very exciting. You are paying for them to get their initial college credits. I think that's amazing. And that fast track, Dynetics hired a 21-year-old graduate, 4-year graduate in computer science from Cameron. You're enabling those aggressive students who want to get on with their life, because this young lady's goal was to get a good job as soon as she could and to get after her life. And I think it's just a wonderful thing.
Well, and so many kids and so many students today, when they graduate from college, they graduate with such a tremendous amount of student loans. If we can get a year, 2 years out of the way before they start incurring those loans, we can dock down a third or half of the loans they incur to get where they're going. Another way, if we can prepare them for work as they're going to college, sometimes we can create it where they can have a skilled job while they're going to college and not incur as many loans.
Yeah, no, it's all good. And I'm a huge fan of what you're doing. And I think as more people across the community understand what you're doing, they're going to love it too. You mentioned earlier some of your programs, you're 9 weeks in. It's a lot of change. And as I took the walk in the LRC, I was really impressed at how quickly it's coming together. But great change doesn't happen overnight. I guess it's a final question to the viewership. What would you tell them about the timeline and what they should expect? And should they have...
It's twofold. One, we're ahead of where we thought we'd be. And two, there's always that deal, well, can we wait? Should we slow it down? Well, kids that are seniors today that are in the LRC, if we had waited, they'd have never got that opportunity. So waiting was a roadblock, not an opportunity. You just got to move forward. You can't get started until you get moving. And we realize, the old saying that somebody told me one time, you can't move the hen house without breaking an egg. So we know that everything's not perfect. That's why we're doing things like our community strategic plan and some of those things and trying to reach out and gather as much information so we can work together. Because again, Lawton Public Schools belongs to the parents and the community and the people of Lawton. It doesn't belong to Kevin Hime. We talked about that. The board hired me to run the school. They didn't give me the school to own it. I don't own it. So we need to gather as much information as we can. And again, we just got to realize that sometimes creating an opportunity for you doesn't have to necessarily take it away from somebody else. We still offer it. So we're trying not to kill any programs or do away with anything that we already have as we create new opportunities. So again, we know that everything's not going to be perfect, but our ultimate goal again is we're going to try to create as many opportunities as we can. And that's came back to our learning styles. We offered virtual during the day, virtual at night, blended. We've also changed our school to where basically, unless the school's full and we only have 1 or 2 sites that are, you can pick your site. You don't have to go through all the process to try to create opportunities for parents to give the best education they feel and make them a partner in education for their students.
Well, like I said, I'm a fan of everything you're doing, and I hope that our constituents, our fellow citizens, they'll all want to get behind what you're doing. I know that as a STEM advocate, I do.
I appreciate it.
I'm going to look for opportunities to support you and to support your programs. And, I just want to thank you for making time to come and visit.
Oh, no, I enjoyed it. Thank you.